I have not thought beyond this off-season dip. Like I've been so hyper focused on that for a long time too. So even just hearing you say that, my idea was to go heavy on this massive dip and hope it pops back up by the time Series 3 starts. And watching you kind of pull back even more and look at it bigger picture, I'm like, oh wow, like maybe I really do need to adjust like this idea, which I thought I was ahead of the curve like months ago when I was like really fleshing it out in my mind. But I'm like, yeah, like everything he says makes complete sense to me. It's super, super sharp. And yeah, I think it would be really, even I feel like I'll have a very much more mature perspective on it in like a week from now, when I've like really been able to like run through like a lot of scenarios in my head and kind of figure out where I hypothesize Top Shot will be when Series 3 starts. Because like, I mean, a lot of that also depends, like, will they be out of beta when Series 3 starts, which at first I was very convinced they were. And as we get closer, I think more and more that we won't be out of beta at the start of Series 3.
I mean, they just made a distribution error today.
Yeah, exactly.
We're still a ways away, I think. And
Yeah.
It's going to be a short off season too. It's like a 2-month off season this year, I think is.
Yeah. And so one thing I talked to Mike about was that, so being a software developer, I'm very aware like how difficult it is to bring new people onto a team, especially when you're working with multiple projects and you have all this code that everything touches. So if you change this here, it changes 20, 30 different things here. So when you bring someone on new, which we recently did at the company I work at, there's so much overhead to be like, hey, like we need you to understand this code, which is a task in itself, because reading code is like takes time to understand what everything's doing. But then on top of that, you need to be aware of exactly what it's touching. And
sure.
it can be an extremely complex net. And especially in the field I work in healthcare technology, mistakes cannot be made because these are like very important things. And so I can only imagine if you're doubling, tripling your team size, like how insane that overhead is in terms of trying to get all these people on board on the same page, understanding like before, like even if you were a developer from the beginning, you could make a change to the code and push that change. And you didn't have to worry if anyone else was working on it because it was you and your coworker, Jerry. Well, right. Now it's you and 12 people working on different pieces and constantly pushing and pulling to like this GitHub. I'm using GitHub as an example. I don't know what they use, but if you're constantly pushing and pulling the same project, like I've been in college, I've had a couple projects get destroyed by someone pushing at the wrong time or pulling at the wrong time. Yeah. And that was with a group of 5 people. Like imagine if there's 20, like they are pushing these updates pretty frequently where I mean, to their credit, they've like, if you look at Top Shot at the beginning of the year and now, it is night and day, like a better product. Yeah. Like it's very impressive. And I think that's the other thing is like, and as a software developer where I think I'm a little more aware of how much insane amount of work something like that can take, like remind myself to like step back and be like, wow, they are honestly like killing it. Like they are doing so much better than most software projects I've seen, even from like established companies when they put something new out. Like, I mean, yeah, whenever you get a Windows update or an iPhone update or something like that, it doesn't work. And this is that's a multi-billion-dollar company pushing it out with developers who have worked on this project for their entire lives. And so the fact that Top Shot has had very few errors, I think I do got to like tip my hat to them and give them credit, because too often people kind of jump down their throats whenever something small happens where it's like, okay, like, yeah, they messed up, but it does say beta and like we can't expect everything to be perfect.
I wish I would have had that kind of insight back when the site was crashing like every other day.
Oh,
I had, like, as a layperson, I have no idea what goes on behind the scenes. So
yeah,
all we saw was inoperability more than 50% of the time for large portions of time.
I joined like right before the scene stars drop, and I started watching like YouTubers and stuff and trying to understand more about Top Shot, because for better or for worse, I have a very obsessive personality and have to like learn everything about something if I like enjoy it. And I remember because I got so excited, like, oh my God, people were talking about the All-Star weekend, and then the website was just down the entire weekend. And I was like, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? Like, this is not what was advertised.
That was the culmination of a lot of marketplace under construction issues. I mean, it was literally like once a day the marketplace would have to go under construction
for like 8 hours at a time.
For hours.
Yeah. And
leading up to that weekend, and then the whole weekend was destroyed.
Correct. It's kind of a bummer. But I mean, so once again, to their credit, like, they didn't think they would have this. They were hoping for this massive growth like a year from now.
Yeah.
Like, they were not like, yeah, like, it'd be really cool if our user base has gone from like 2,000 to like 20,000 in like this past month. That's already a lot. I don't think they could have ever imagined 20, 30, 40, 50K up to like 500,000. Yeah.
I would love to get an answer. And I've asked a couple times during live streams with like Alan or Jacob or whatever, and they've never been answered. But I would love to know if they had to do it over again, if they would have let so many people in at the same time when their site was so unstable. Like
So you're saying if they had foresight now?
Yeah, if they had, if they could go back and do it over again, because there was a moment. I mean, there was like a month where they had to shut down registrations because they let so many people in. Second week of February, third week of February.
Yeah,
I think it was.
Yeah,
it was leading up to the rush, so it must have been first or second week of February.
Yeah,
where the site was down, was crashing left and right, and they were just signing up anybody who wanted to sign up.
Yeah.
I wonder if they would have taken a more measured approach.
Yeah, I would assume they would, but that's also because like hindsight's 2020, and they can now be like, oh wow, there was a lot more demand than we understood. Because I mean, if you see that happening, like, the last thing you want to do is tell people like, hey, like, this thing that we've been trying to get more users to, now we're going to start turning down more users. Like,
yeah,
so they were probably like, we have this limited window to get these people in before they become disinterested. And therefore they really just tried to force it in as much as they could. I think they'd probably say, yeah, they would probably not let in as many in as possible. And I mean, even part of that being like, you look at the whole false scarcity thing that really started by like Supreme, and that has just permeated all types of areas of our culture. Like, the most recent example being Clubhouse, like how you couldn't join Clubhouse unless you got invited to it, even though Clubhouse could handle as many users as they wanted, but they wanted to make it seem like exclusive, like a Clubhouse. And so I do think Top Shot probably would have benefited if they did that. Because I mean, I got lucky when the first time I discovered Top Shot, I signed up, like, no problem. But then I told friends about it because I was like, whoa, this is kind of cool. Like, I'm diving into this more, like, especially my software developer friends. I was like, yeah, you might, like, if you have any interest in blockchain, like, this is really interesting. And especially like the whole NFT buzz is kind of becoming a thing. And this is like an actually like decent like use case example of like what something could be, as opposed to some of this garbage that me and my friends were like making fun of in group chats. And for weeks they would be like, yeah, I can't sign up still. Like, can't sign up still. And I was like, wow, I just kind of got in. Like, I didn't realize it was so hard. And because of that, my friends were like really itching to sign up. And I mean, at least one of them, who took him a while, like him and his wife now have an account, and he does every drop he can. Like, he's not dropping like massive amounts of money into the marketplace or anything, but he like really likes Top Shot. And as he was a big basketball fan, and he bought a couple Kings players because he's a big Kings fan. He bought into it, and he had to wait like weeks and weeks. And I think Top Shot probably just didn't anticipate that, where they're like, oh, if we make someone wait a week, they're not going to come back and try. Like, there's so many other things they could do. Why are they going to come and try to a website that tells them, oh, you can't join? So,
What do you think? What do you think the reasoning behind them dropping so many moments recently is?
I think it comes down to, one, they want to lower like the entry, the barrier to entry, which is the floor. Like I think most of us would agree the ultimate goal that Top Shot has, their number one goal is probably more new users and converting those new users from new users into like semi like understanding Top Shot and wanting to build a collection and kind of buying into it. So you got to think, if you think from that perspective, you got to think, well, how do we get new users in? One, like there's got to be a low floor on the marketplace. If you go to the marketplace and you see a Mason Plumlee or like some of these players that really won't hold any value going for $20, you're not gonna buy that for 20.
Sure, but
if you're a basketball fan, you know, like there's no reason why I should spend $20 for this.
Sure.
So
but the floor is $2. Why can't it be $5?
Yeah. And I agree. But so one of the best parts about Top Shot and one of the greatest experiences that they've built from beginning to end is the pack opening, right? It's flawless. The way it looks, the way they present it, they music, they do a great job.
Yeah.
And I think the other part of that is low floor, but also having packs available for new users, which we've seen. Like they're like, hey, if you're a brand new user and you haven't bought a pack, you're eligible to literally immediately go and buy a pack, because that gives them the best taste of Top Shot right off the bat, where they're like, whoa, like that was so much fun. Like I love that. And I got a player that I wanted. It didn't cost me a lot of money. This is great. But in order to have all those packs sitting there, like you have to create a bunch of moments because you're anticipating a lot of new users, and you can't be caught with your pants down like you were in February, you know?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just the flooding of these playoff moments. Like I understand you have to have some playoff moments, but man,
no, they're in a tough spot. They're in a really tough spot. And there's part of me that's like they've really botched these playoff moments, but there's another part of me that feels bad for them because it's like they're trying to appease. Like there are people now who have had Top Shot accounts for like over a year, and you see it on Twitter. If you're on Twitter at all, you see these people whining like, oh, I didn't get a holo pack. Oh, like I demand a refund on this pack because it like I bought a throwdown pack and it costs like my moment isn't worth more than the pack. Like ridiculous stuff. So imagine, to Top Shot credit, once again, they've done a really good job at making themselves accessible and trying to at least communicate clearly. I know they definitely haven't been the best at that, but they've tried. You can tweet at Roham and you can tweet at Jacob and you might get a reply. While I use this analogy, I think talking to Sawyer, if you go to the grocery store and you buy a loaf of bread and you open it up and it's moldy, you don't tweet the CEO of Sara Lee. You don't know who that is, you know? Right. And so that's the con of that pro is like, hey, like they're super accessible. They care. They want to help the community. They want to foster a community. They want to like participate. They don't want to just stand back and make money and like exploit you or whatever, like some people would accuse them of if they did do that. But on the other hand, they're a lot more exposed to all the negativity. You look at whenever Top Shot posts, like half the replies are people like, I didn't get a pack, like this Top Shot's dead, like all this stuff. Like I'm sure Rohan sees that, and I'm sure subconsciously at least that affects their decision making because they're trying to be like, no, like we're not trying to like rip anyone off. We want people to have a complete, immersive, enjoyable experience. And
I've had a lot of experience in those kind of situations also as running a poker room. Poker players are carbon copy of our Top Shot user base, just nonstop bitching. Nothing's ever enough. Even if you give them, $1, they'll be like, why wasn't it $2?
Yeah.
So, and it's hard because I ran the room. Like you have to be sympathetic and you have to listen and you have to have their best intention in mind. But then you also have to know that a lot of them just love to bitch and to just tune it out and focus on what needs to be done. Like dragging them along with you, like kicking and screaming. Like it's
even though you have their best interest in mind.
Yeah, right. It's for their own good,
It's like
and they
raising
hate
a
it.
kid.
So, and I've raised kids. So,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's a difficult position, but with the right kind of mindset, like you can definitely like push through it.
Yeah.
Bring all the doubters with you. Bring all the bitchers and moaners with you.
Yeah.
Put them on your back and just carry forward. So
Yeah. So I think one thing, once again, maybe a slightly interesting perspective that I have as a software developer is, so in software all the time, when you're building someone a project, you're starting with nothing and you're building something. That in itself is pretty incredible.
yeah.
However, you're not building something that you want to build. You're building something that someone tells you what they want, but they don't know what they want. They never know what they want. All
Yeah.
they know is what they don't want. And they don't know what they don't want until you give them something they don't want.
Right.
And so it's this incredibly infuriating experience because they'll be like, I want this. And you give them exactly what they asked for. And then they're like, where's this? And it's like, you did not ask for that. How am I can't read your mind. I think once again, Top Shot's in that place where they're like, they're a great example. The rebound packs. People are like, I didn't get anything. Oh, like I got in line, I didn't get anything. Top Shot came up with this really great idea where they're like, hey, if you get in line and you qualify and you don't get a pack, we'll throw you a bone. So that way you get the experience. You get to experience what everyone else, you don't have this FOMO where you're like, oh, I don't get to open a pack.
So if you go 0 for 16, you're not waiting 4 months for a pack.
Yeah,
you still get to open
or
one every 2 weeks.
or threatening to sell everything and quit Top Shot, you know? Yeah. But and now you have people that are complaining, all I got was a rebound pack. It's worthless. It's garbage. And it's like, that wasn't a thing months ago. That was such a great new feature. And people are just so entitled that they brushed over it. And you have Top Shot who's probably like, oh my gosh, like we did it. We have enhanced the user experience by a significant margin by coming up with this idea.
But yeah, those rebound packs, it's just, that sounds like poker players right there. Just like you give them something awesome and then they're like, why wasn't it more? Like,
yeah. So, and I mean, I think a bigger diagnosis of that is just like the culture we live in. Like we do live in a very like entitled culture. Like I want it now rather than later. Instant gratification is like all around us with everything from like Instagram likes to like being able to buy something and have it delivered like the same day.
My account is still up in the green somehow.
Mine is not.
Yeah, and I can imagine like 90% of users are in the red. I do feel terrible for anyone that is in the red right now because this is a beta project that the users are not only spending their time but also their money to develop this project. And a lot of the users are going to get turned off and just take it as an L in the wallet, right?
Yeah.
Where, I mean, I don't have a ton of experience with startups and beta testing. I have a little bit, but not a ton. But normally there's no risk or very little risk to the user when you're helping a company develop something and you're the guinea pig, right? Like normally they're the ones that are paying you for your time and your feedback and all that. So
I think the flip side you got to remember is there's almost never a reward or potential for a reward like there is. The fact that there are people who've like 10x, 20, 30, 40, 50x, you wouldn't join any beta where you like that, you have that opportunity. Usually they're like, oh, thanks for like beta testing our video game. Here's this exclusive skin. You know what I mean? And so I think that's like the flip side where you got to be like, yeah, I mean, it does suck, like you said, that the majority of users, because so many of them joined later, that most of them, including myself, are in the red. But I think if you believe in the project, I think Top Shot's goal is for all these early users to be in the green long term, because I think they do recognize how valuable we are from a testing perspective, as well as just like believing in the project early. And spreading word of mouth and all this other stuff. So once again, I think it just comes down to like, I mean, the money I put in, it's gone. Like I didn't expect to get it back, at least short term. Maybe it'll turn into something later, which would be great. But I mean, I believe in the project, so I wasn't looking to jump in 10x and jump out. I really love the NBA. I'm a software developer, so unfortunately, as I've developed more software, I've become more of a nerd. This kind of is that sweet spot for me, and then on top of that, meeting like a lot of really cool people in the community and all that stuff has like really been quite a pleasant surprise. And so like I'm just kind of at the mindset where like I think, and I've gotten some pushback in the Discord on this where I'm just like, look, I think everything's going down. I think this is burning down. This could burn down to the ground. And when Top Shot reemerges from the ashes, which I think it will, like I don't think it's going to die. I'm very bearish short term, but I'm very bullish like long term.
Yeah,
100%. And when it rises from the ashes, like that's gonna be the start of where people can like hopefully have some hope. And I mean, you gotta ride it out. There's the highs and the lows, and it's the same thing in life where you can't get too high on yourself and you can't get too low on yourself. You just have to like be able to look at stuff more objectively and just approach it accordingly. Because otherwise you're going to lose sleep and you're just gonna be like, oh my gosh, like I bought this moment and now I have to go and put myself in live token timeout.
Yeah. Yeah, I might take it a little too seriously sometimes, but I'm really hard on myself. So
I'm the same way. It's something I've been working on for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I try to be really cerebral. Like I try to think things through, and I try just with my poker background, like I just see things as games and how to,
how to exploit something that no one's looking at. Yeah.
How to get advantages in certain situations. So
yeah, I grew up playing a lot of chess, and then on top of that, I also grew up in like a pretty rough neighborhood, and then on top of that, went and studied computer science, which is like very much breaking things down in problems into small pieces and stuff like that. So I feel like the combination of that has like really the street smarts and kind of the book smarts and the like practical thinking. I approach things very similarly. And when I played poker for a bit, like I used to play it a pretty decent amount. I got pretty good at it. Like not like amazing, but I could go and join a table of strangers and like come out like top 3, top 4 without a problem. Sure. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. And
I see Top Shot as a big game, and
yeah, same thing.
And my dapper are my chips, and I'm trying to get as many chips as possible. And
yeah,
it helps that it incorporates basketball because I grew up playing basketball and played in high school and
played a lot of basketball growing up too.
So it's something that I'm into DraftKings 100%. Yeah. So I've done quite a bit of basketball lineups.
We've gone over an hour, which I didn't expect. So thank you so much for your time, man. And thank you for this conversation. I feel like I myself learned a lot and like have really changed my perspective on a lot of things. And I'm hoping the people watching feel the same way. And we get some comments of some people with some additional insight or ideas to this whole conversation. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. I know, like you said, you got a wife and kids and other responsibilities. So it means a lot that you'll talk to some guy who wears a bear suit and puts tinfoil on his head. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. And if you guys have any questions or any comments or anything, hit me and Mike up in the Discord.
Yeah, definitely.